Well, hello and welcome, and thank you for your interest in this documentary about Mensa of Northeastern New York, covering the time from 2011 all the way back to 1963 when the group was established. This is segment 5 of the 2010 to 2011 part of the documentary. The documentary actually consists of 2 parts. The part we're going to look at now covers the time from November 2010 through December 2011. The other part covers the time from October 2010 back to December 1963 when the group was established, and we invite you to look at that sometime also. Well, we're going to look at segment 5 of the part of the documentary covering the time from November 2010 through December 2011, but we'd invite you to look at some of the other segments also. Segment 1, for example, includes the introduction to this part of the documentary. It also includes an overview of it. It includes events that are typical in the group. It also includes some other interests of members of the group. Segment 2 describes the positions in the group that begin with the letters A through H. Segment 3 includes positions beginning with the letters I through Z. It also includes a description of the communications used in the group and also the number of members in the group over the years. Segment 4 includes information about and interviews with members of Mensa of Northeastern New York who also have positions in American Mensa or the Mensa Education and Research Foundation. And segment 5 is what we're going to look at now. It includes information about the nature and characteristics of American Mensa, the nature and characteristics of the Mensa Education and Research Foundation. It gives good focus to the methodology that was used in the research and preparation of this documentary. It gives credits and acknowledgments to the many, many people who have contributed to the research and preparation of this documentary. It gives a focus to the heritage of Mensa of Northeastern New York, and it includes the reflections by the author after having completed the research and preparation of the documentary, and it includes the conclusion. So, let us begin with a welcoming by President Rob Salkin.
Hi folks, my name is Rob Salkin. I'm the president of Mensa of Northeastern New York. I hold a variety of other positions in Mensa. I'm glad Leo's put together this documentary of our group, and you'll learn a little more about our group with this documentary. You'll hear about all the events that we have. We have Tavern Tuesday, we have a picnic in the park, we have games night, we have all sorts of other things that you'll hear more about. We also have a bunch of different officers you'll hear about. We have an events coordinator, we have a editor, we have a vice president, we have treasurer, we have all sorts of other things, and I hope you'll stick around and hear all about it. Thanks.
Mensa of Northeastern New York relates directly with National American Mensa. In fact, it's a part of American Mensa. And Mensa of Northeastern New York also relates directly to the Mensa Education and Research Foundation. It participates in a number of its programs. With respect to the national level program of Mensa Education and Research Foundation, the Mensa of Northeastern New York group hosted one of the national programs. There may be someone who wonders What is American Mensa and why does it exist? Well, full information about American Mensa can be located on our website, www.us.mensa.org, and that will always be up to date. However, here's a very quick summary of what Mensa is. There are three main purposes for it. One is to identify and foster human intelligence for the benefit of humanity. You can read along with these, by the way. The second is to encourage research in the nature, characteristics, and uses of intelligence. And the third is to provide a stimulating intellectual and social environment for the members. To qualify to be a member of Mensa, a person must have scored in the top 2% of the general population on any of a large number of accepted, standardized intelligence tests. And Mensa administers one called the Mensa Admission Test. The qualification to be in the top 2% can take place at any time in one's life. There are many millions of Americans eligible, as 1 in every 50 members of the general population is eligible. There are approximately 55,000 members of American Mensa. It's organized in 10 regions. There are roughly 100,000 Mensans worldwide. In American Mensa, there are 132 local groups and about 137 special interest groups. So, if you'd like more details, you can look at the Mensa website, us.mensa.org. The Mensa Education and Research Foundation is a global organization. The mission of the foundation is to recognize, encourage, and communicate excellence in intelligence, and it does this through education, research, and recognition programs. Works closely with Mensa International, of course, but it also works especially closely with American Mensa. In fact, the foundation owns the building in which the staff of American Mensa works. Also, the staff of American Mensa provides administrative support for the Mensa Foundation. There's a connection directly between Mensa Education and Research Foundation and Mensa of Northeastern New York. In 2001, Mensa of Northeastern New York had a brick installed in the Walk of the Minds of the foundation, and the brick was in honor of Joe Manuel, the founder of Mensa of Northeastern New York. Our group also has a connection with the foundation because every year we participate in the scholarship program, and also the chair of the Copper Black Award program of the foundation is a member of Mensa of Northeastern New York, Harry Ringermacher. So there is a good connection between this good organization and Mensa of Northeastern New York. There are a number of references to provide more information about American Mensa and the Mensa Education and Research Foundation and Mensa of Northeastern New York. One of the references is the 50th anniversary of American Mensa. It's a history covering the time from 1960 to 2010. It was created by Stacy Kirsch from the Chicago area, and she is now the archivist of Mensa International. And this is in 2 parts, and it's on YouTube. A second reference is the 30th anniversary of American Mensa. It was a history recorded in a book named A History of Mensa. Covers the time from 1960 to 1990. It was written and edited by a number of people, but the main editor was Ted Elzinga of Minnesota Mensa. A basic reference about Mensa, including International Mensa, is a book called Mensa, the Society for the Highly Intelligent. This was written by Victor Serebiakov, covers the years from 1945 to 1985, and the author was very instrumental in many of the early activities of Mensa International, and also with respect to the establishment of American Mensa. The website of American Mensa, www.us.mensa.org, is a basic and primary source of information about American Mensa. It is continuously updated and has all sorts of information that is available, and identifies documents which can be used for the conduct of activities within Mensa groups, and at the regional level and at the national level, and it has references to some extent to the international level. The website of the Mensa Education and Research Foundation, www.mensafoundation.org, is an excellent source of information about the foundation. And the website of Mensa of Northeastern New York is www.nymensa.org. These are all excellent resources that we commend to your reference. Well, the main part of this multimedia presentation about Mensa of Northeastern New York from November 1, 2010 through December 31, 2011 is complete. Now let us look at the methodology that was used and the sources that were used in preparing this multimedia presentation and the documentary. It is important to consider the methodology and the sources because they are critical to assure the validity of the multimedia presentation and the whole documentary. The guiding principles used in preparation of this documentary were authenticity and identification of sources. The techniques that were used to implement these principles were research that is based on documents, which are primarily newsletters. The newsletters are the common thread of information within Mensa of Northeastern New York throughout the years. In the later years, more recently, there are more newsletters available. In the earlier years, the newsletters were not as readily available. Some years there was only a very few. There were some years in which there were no newsletters at all. And there were a few other primary documents that could be used as the basis for inclusion of certain information. The second technique was to identify the source of the information when information or data were included. Another technique included interviews, but only interviews that had recording with them. There were some very important interviews, and a record was made of them, and a copy of the record was provided to the individuals participating in the interview, and adjustments were made to the record until everyone agreed that the information was accurate. Another technique was to include photographs. Photographs, of course, describe the events or the persons very carefully. Digital records were also used, and primarily these records were in American Mensa at their headquarters in Arlington, Texas. Another technique that we used was to avoid any entry in the documentary that had the potential for misinterpretation or controversy. During research and preparation of this documentary about Mensa of Northeastern New York, which took a little over a year and a half, there were many facts and figures, photographs, videos, and music that contributed toward the authenticity of the documentary. These sources were identified and some comments included in what is called the Sources and Comments section. In each part, there was a distinctive letter that began the reference. In the part covering the years 2010 and 11, the beginning letter was B, and in the other part, the beginning letter was A. And as the references were included, they were included in sequential number. So we'll take a fast look at the sources and comments that relate to the part of the documentary having to do with the years 2010 and 2011. In this next section, we want to give acknowledgement to the many, many individuals who provided information or documents for use in development of and preparation of this documentary. Without that input from so many individuals, the documentary would have been impossible to prepare. We also want to give focus to the heritage of Mensa of Northeastern New York and some ideas on how to preserve it for the future. Through the process of researching and preparing this documentary, the author developed some opinions and ideas about the people and events of the Mensa Group over the years. And those reflections will be included in this section. And also this section brings this particular multimedia presentation to an end. And the finish of this multimedia presentation completes the showing of one half of the documentary about Mensa of Northeastern New York. We encourage you to watch the other section also. So many people contributed to the development of this documentary of Mensa of Northeastern New York that it is marvelous. And we want to assure that every person in this large group of individuals is acknowledged and receives many thanks for their individual contributions. Contributions came in a variety of ways, some through conversations, most through documents, and a few through some interviews, rather lengthy interviews. But we want to assure to thank every person who contributed in any way to the preparation of this documentary. First, of course, my lovely wife Diane, who endured for approximately a year and a half of the time that it took to prepare this documentary. Also, each individual who is shown or depicted in the multimedia presentations of the documentary. Rob Salkin, the president of Mensa of Northeastern New York, receives a special recognition because without his persistence in requesting that the documentary be created, it would not exist. Those who loaned or donated source documents. Most of the source documents were newsletters, but there were a few other very significant documents. And those who made major donations were Willard Hoyt, Dar Novak, Dickman Boone, Victor O'Valley, Bruce Allen, Muriel DeRosa, Judy Keating, Randy Brinson, Dean Christensen, and I put in a few documents myself. There were many interviews, and some of them were interviews that were recorded and are shown as videos in the different parts of the documentary. And there were others who were interviewed for other purposes to provide background information. And those who had major interviews were Joe Manuel, Dickman Boone, Willard Hoyt, Dar Novak, Judy Keating, Harry Ringermacher, Richard Rakowski, Ron Norris, Paul Tobler, Charles Raymond, and Peter Houston. We also thank very much Monica Wilson and Michael Roche. Monica composed the music that is used to introduce the various sections of this documentary, and both she and her husband Michael Roche played the music. Continuing our acknowledgement of the many contributions by so many people, we want to include the national office staff and other officials of American Mensa. At the headquarters, in particular, we would like to single out Howard Prince, the Director of Operations, who provided information and data over a long period of time. Even before the development of this documentary, Howard was always ready and eager to provide information requested by officials of Mensa of Northeastern New York. Also, Lori Norris, a former regional vice chair for Region 1, provided assistance. Andrew Heffernan, the current regional vice chair, provided assistance. And also the American Mensa membership chair, Rob Salkin, provided assistance. You've heard their names in other capacities also. One of the people who gave significant contributions early on was Stacy Kirsch. She's an archivist, or the archivist of Mensa International, but she also is the creator of the 50th anniversary history of American Mensa. It was that 50th anniversary history of American Mensa which inspired the inclusion in this documentary about Mensa of Northeastern New York, of video and oral records of the past presidents and the current members of Mensa of Northeastern New York who hold positions in American Mensa or the Mensa Education and Research Foundations. Walter Edgar contributed to this documentary in an indirect but very significant way. He's the author of a book called South Carolina, A History, and the style of that book is shows so much detail that it inspired an identification in this documentary of the sources and the inclusion of many explanatory comments. So, although he did not personally contribute, his book made a major contribution to the style used in preparation of this documentary. All of us like to know about things in the past. Who are the people? What happened? And what were the conditions? Same thing is true with Mensa of Northeastern New York. We all don't look at it every day, but when we get ready to look at the past, then we need to have the information available in a humanly readable medium. I mention that because there have been many developments in which the media stored information, but time went on and there was great developments in technology, and some of the information on those previous media cannot be read. The one medium that consistently exists is a hard copy. The paper has existed for over 2,000 years, not likely to go out of existence. On the other hand, there are many technological developments, and these are very widely used. It would be optimum for Mensa of Northeastern New York to have an archivist who would focus on the digital aspects of communications and records of the group, and another archivist who would focus on maintaining hard copies. And of course, we need a historian or someone to analyze and synthesize and interpret and portray that information to show the heritage of Mensa of Northeastern New York. So the way this can happen is if the leaders of Mensa of Northeastern New York set goals, prepare action plans, and follow up with monitoring of some sort to ensure that the information is maintained for future review. As I was creating this documentary about Mensa of Northeastern New York, it covers the years from 2011 all the way back to 1963 when the group was started, I noticed some of the same characteristics in the events that have been held over the years. The main common aspect is that Mensans enjoy getting together to visit and eat. Other types of events reflect the focused interests of the members at various times and locations and add value to the participation by the members of the group. My own observation is that individuals are proud to be Mensans, and they like to associate with other Mensans. The means of communications have changed. Even the monthly newsletter has gone from a single typed sheet to a multi-page document with graphics and is published digitally as well as in long-lasting hard copy. The multimedia exchanges on mobiles, emails, websites, and social networks are continually improving within months. It has been a privilege to write this documentary about the first 48 years of our Mensa Group. I am proud to be a Mensan, and I am grateful to be with the wonderful members of Mensa of Northeastern New York. Well, this documentary about Mensa of Northeastern New York was prepared by Leo A. Kellogg, who was the first ever historian of Mensa of Northeastern New York. The documentary is copyrighted for and by Mensa of Northeastern New York, and all rights are reserved. Well, here's a listing of all of the segments of the November 2010 through December 2011 part of the documentary about Mensa of Northeastern New York. When you're done looking at this summary, just go ahead and shut off your video. And we thank you for your interest in this documentary about Mensa of Northeastern New York.